And now on the line from Florida in the US is best-selling author, TV host, and Spirit Channel Michelle Paisley Reid. Michelle, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you so much, Darren. Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. Michelle, I recently read your to-date 3 Power of 10 books, and I found them to be very good. To start off, can you tell our listeners a bit about your interest in spirituality that has culminated to date in you writing books, doing workshops, and having a TV program?
Yes, I'll try and give you the short version. You know, I've always been into spirituality. I was very intuitive since I was a little kid. But it wasn't really until I went to college that I had a near-death experience. And when I came from that, I experienced that loving, unconditional light that many talk about and no judgment. And it really changed my life. I came back even more intuitive. And it took many years, of course, to navigate that world. I got into yoga before yoga became really popular, and that helped me reach that level of bliss, if you will, where that was the other side. And then it wasn't until I wrote books. I was an English major in school. I love reading, love writing, always have. I was a journalist for many years, which is kind of funny when you're as psychic as I am. But it was good in that I had some intuitive hunches with people that I followed. But it wasn't until much later that I began channeling. I started out as a medium. I went through a bout of breast cancer, and so I was waylaid for a while. I had to stay in bed and recover, and I meditated a lot, just to heal. And the voices, it sounds crazy, but it got so strong and powerful that I couldn't deny it anymore. And then synchronistically, I started doing readings for people. Eventually, I had this huge waiting list. I've never seen anything grow like that quickly without any marketing, with just word of mouth in my entire life. But then, you know, I went to a workshop with John Holland, who is a medium out here, Hay House. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's like John Edward, only different. And they told me that I was really good at overshadowing, which means the spirit, instead of just talking, you know, passing along messages from spirit, they actually enter my body, and I'm allowing that to happen so that they can speak directly through me. Now, it freaked me out at first because, you know, I just didn't know anything about this. I just did it naturally without training. And they said, you know, as long as your vibration is high, as long as you remain positive, it's the law of attraction. Only like can attract like. And so it's basically my job to stay in a high vibration and allow those positive spirits to come through. So that very evening, I was meditating because we were being evaluated on our stage presence, and I was terrified. And I got really clearly, we are the power of 10. You know, I forgot what else they said. It was, I write about it on our bio on our website at wearethepowerof10.com. But I didn't know what that was. I just thought it was someone's grandma coming to speak early or something. And so I kind of dismissed it. They said, we like to see you succeeding in life. And I thought, well, isn't that nice? That was encouraging. So, you know, I did very well. I was able to get very clear messages from Spirit the next day. And then when I came home, luckily I have a very open-minded husband, even if he is very left-brained. He's an engineer. But I asked him to sit with me while I go into a sort of trance. I'd been meditating for many years. I had owned a yoga studio, so I knew how to get into that quiet state very rapidly. And then I asked him to record what came out of me. And that was the very first recording that we left unedited on our YouTube channel. We just put it out there, but we did it anonymously at first because I already had released 3 books. So I didn't want people to associate that with me. I just wanted people to be attracted to the frequency of it if they're ready for that level of messages. And so pretty quickly, my husband had tears in his eyes, first of all, and he's not a teary-eyed guy. he just said, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. We need to do more of this because we felt fantastic. And in the beginning, I really didn't remember a lot of it at all. I just didn't. And now that I've done it hundreds of times, I can remember more of it. It's like when you're really intensely present, but you remember, but it's in the moment, and it almost felt like I'd been drinking, and I couldn't remember until later, and I got little flashbacks. But at any rate, it got huge. People started writing me from around the world once we released our names about 6 months later, and that I would have been happy just doing that. But then I woke up one morning at 6 a.m. on the dot, and I heard it's time to write a book, because I'm very clairaudient. That's one of my strongest clairs. I'm clairvoyant, clairsentient, all of it. The clairaudience is really strong for me. So I heard the voice say very clearly, it's time to write a book. So I sat at my laptop at 6 a.m, and I'm not a morning person, and I let my hands hover over the keyboard. I didn't know how this was going to work, because when I channel, it's full body, right? But when I write the book, it's almost like if you've heard about A Course in Miracles, it's like I hear it and they dictate it and I write it. And so I started writing, and every day I'd wake up at 6 o'clock, and I was like, really? It has to be this early? But I think it was when I'm most clear-headed before the start of my day, of course. And I wrote the entire Manifesting Miracles and Money, our first book, in a month, which is unheard of. My other books took, years. But because it was so pure, it just came right through me, and I wanted to get it out as quick as possible. And of course, my other books, they were not metaphysical books. I had a yoga book before, Yoga for a Broken Heart, which was a big hit, and it was actually published by Finhorn over in Scotland. And but I did fiction books, I did screenplays and things like that. So I didn't really have a publisher yet. And so I just re-released it as a book called Rise by the Power of 10. It picked up traction, but not a whole lot, in the beginning. And so, but long story short, I grabbed the attention of Tom at CCK Publishing through a friend of mine who had been meditating and just said, I feel like I should hook the two of you up. And he called me on Thanksgiving, and we chatted for hours, and he loved it. And he said, I want to sign you on a 3-book contract. And I was like, wow. Okay. So he took over that first book and repackaged it with a new cover and a new title, which became Manifesting Miracles and Money. And we did Peace is Power was the second one, which I feel is an even deeper book, much deeper. I love that book. And then there's Keep Your Spirits Up for the trilogy, also a powerful book. But you can read them in any order. But I mean, I pounded those out within a year and a half. They all instantly became #1 on Amazon here and in the UK, which my other books had never done. So, and it's an entirely different voice. I love my old books, but these are they're not me. It's spirit coming through me. They came through so perfect that the editor that my publisher hired wanted to give her feedback because she didn't feel like she had to copy edit it. Again, unheard of, because even though I was a journalist and I was even an editor for a long time, you make mistakes when you're human, and that it goes through a number of eyes before a book gets made. But these just came out absolutely brilliant, and I just was so proud of them. And we started doing workshops, and they were instant hits. We've called them different names over the years. Now we're calling them Rise and Vibe. And then, again, series of synchronicities, because that's how it happened. I was introduced to a producer in LA, and he wanted to make it into a TV show. And so, over a series of time, it probably took a good year, but he brought us out to Clearwater, Florida, where we now live. And my husband and I, who are lifelong residents of California, we absolutely fell in love with Florida, this area of Florida. It just talk about resonating. We just felt like we were buzzing with enthusiasm. The white sand beaches and the warm water in the Gulf of Mexico, it was just a dream of mine, and very affordable. It was meant to be. I fell in love with this area. And so we filmed the show. We actually, we got it edited. We moved to Florida within a couple months. We got rid of everything we owned and moved across the entire United States. We found an amazing condominium I'm looking at the water right now, which is something we probably couldn't have afforded it back then in California. But, law of attraction. Kept focusing on it, let go of the house, and here we are. And so it took another year, and we got picked up by Roku, which is wonderful because that's an international audience. And so it's streaming now on a channel called the Deaderon channel. Just started a few weeks ago for the series. It's a web series, so the episodes are shorter. And then we got interest from a company called Herflix, which is like Netflix, but for empowering women, which I love. So that they are just launching with documentaries. Check it out; they're amazing. Herflix.com, and so they're going to give me the green light of when they're going to air our show there too. So we're hoping still that it gains traction and more networks pick it up. But really, what's ironic is in the beginning, I only want to do the TV show. I'm really not that public of a person. I am when I'm channeling because I have that energy running through me. It's me, but not me. But I thought that the TV show would help the book get to more people. But ironically, in the process, the books all hit #1 on their own. And so I had to trust in my guides, which that's what the Power of 10 are, is my spirit guides, that, when people are ready for it, like yourself, you align to it. It's almost like magic, and you have to trust in that process. So it's just been a phenomenal journey, and I'm still curious how it's all going to play out. But I just think that path of following what lights me up and what makes me ecstatic. And yes, it's not like my life is perfect. I definitely have moments. I am human. I'm not the Power of 10. I'm not dead yet and ready for that level. But I don't let it keep me down because I address whatever fear I'm going through, and I feel like I bounce back quicker. And so, because it's just science, it's physics. You're going to attract whatever vibrational level you're on. And so if you stay stuck in where is it or what's happening or fear or anger or whatever it is that we're going through as humans, then you just attract that. And so, for me, just being near the beach, it's so healing, especially for someone as intuitive as I am, to be able to clear out other people's energies, because I tend to take it on, being as empathic as I am. And so that's part of my journey. But this is all exciting. And the fact that we're reaching an international audience like yourselves is just absolutely delightful. And funny enough, quick story, and I'll let you talk. I just had my Ancestry.com done where it picked my lineage. And my whole life I thought I was primarily Italian because I associated so much with my Italian side of my family. But it turns out
You're Scottish, is it? No?
Well, that's my maiden name, Paisley, that I made my middle name.
All right.
So I have Scottish, but I also have quite a bit of Irish and mostly English. Cool. I'm primarily English and German. Who knew?
Cool. I know Paisley is a Scottish name originally, I believe. I presume you've heard of Ian Paisley, have you?
Yeah, I have. I don't know if that's good or bad, but no judgment. I think there's no relation.
Yeah.
But I'm really primarily English and German, which is funny because I never knew that. So that's why I'm aligning with Europe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
This Roku network, is this like a big network or is it a small network or what's the story?
Actually, Roku is a really big, it's a streaming network. And so you can either, if you have a newer smart television, you can download it, or you go on Amazon. It costs $25, I think, to get a stick, but there's not subscription fees. So I really love that it's a streaming service, and here's why. At first we were approached by all these big networks that, and I don't know what you have over there, but, there's different channels that cover different regions out here. But I was a little intimidated by the masses seeing this and, again, losing my privacy. I'm a mother. I have kids. Sometimes they don't like the attention that they get on social media from people that I know. And so the fact that it's streaming, and that has become such a big deal. And I think it's really the direction of the future, where you don't have ads, where it goes internationally. Then again, what happens is the people that understand what we're talking about, that are ready for it, right? That align with our message, which really is one of oneness, that beyond this life, that we are one spirit expressing as different, unique, creative souls, and that you really can manifest everything that you could ever dream of. And it goes beyond that into really developing a world of peace. So beyond just the stuff, because really that's the easy part. It's manifesting love and peace in your heart so that spreads and radiates to those around you and to the entire world, and seeing us as one people rather than these man-made borders. They don't exist. We're all human. We're all spirits. We're all souls underneath these bodies. And so that's our message. And so on a streaming service such as Roku, it's just like Netflix, but Netflix is bigger. I'd love to get picked up by Netflix, and maybe that's next. I keep visualizing it and seeing it, and this all just happened. It just got released in the last couple of weeks, so it's very new. And I didn't understand how long of a process television really is. It takes time, just like movies, and so I'm thrilled that we got recognized by Roku, and I hope that if anybody's listening, we have our show on through a company called filmhub.com. And so anybody that wants to pick it up, and Netflix is on there, all the big services, they can view our episodes, and if they want to pick it up. And ideally, what I'd like to have happen is some producer sees it and wants to air more episodes, because I can't tell you how fun it is to create those. And we did it in a talk show format. And everybody told me that no one does talk shows anymore. Everyone said that to me. And I said, well, that's how I want to do it. And of course now, I don't know if you see these over in Ireland, but there's all kinds of talk shows that just came out. Big ones, Kelly Clarkson, Cameron Hall, these big stars. No, I'm not Kelly Clarkson, but, and ours has a metaphysical bent. So it's different because, we lead our workshops a lot like Abraham Hicks, who I love, and I've been to the workshop. But we do it in the same way, where people get the hot seat and they come up and they ask Power of 10 a question, and they talk. But, my husband and I both moderate it. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, people go in kind of nervous and they come out so blissed out. And that's what we want to create. That's the vibration that we want to spread. And so, of course, it's not cheap to create a TV show. And so, but whatever. I mean, what is cheap? Whatever is supposed to happen, I think that if the right person sees it and wants to create more episodes, we'd be completely on board. So for now, we're just doing the workshops. In fact, we have one this Sunday in Dunedin, not Dunedin, Scotland. It's named after Dunedin, Scotland. So they have a lot of Scottish holidays there, which is really fun. But it's our neighboring town in Florida. So we're doing one there at 1:00 this Sunday. And those are always a lot of fun. And we're we're almost sold out already.
All right, cool. Before we talk a bit more about the Power of 10, because I'm fascinated by this topic, have an interest in your work that you used to do with ghosts, like a medium, spirit world. Could you tell us a bit more about that, please? That kind of work.
Yeah, it's hard for me to describe it because it's not just something that I do as a job. It's who I am. Right? It comes so naturally to me. I've learned over the years, for me, to turn it on and off, because to live in this world and be bombarded by spirits. Imagine there's almost 8 billion people on the planet today. Now, times 100,000, and that's how many spirits are out there. So if they're constantly trying to give me messages, it can be absolutely overwhelming. And so I've had to learn how to be receptive to it, and then also to turn it off and live my life. And so when I turn it on and I choose to do that, it's like I can feel them, I can hear them, I can see them. It's just natural. And I'm a very evidential medium when I have done that. And again, I'm focusing on the channeling now, and I'll get to that shortly. But it's just so healing and so powerful to people that are open to it. And I'm not like the Long Island medium, bless her heart, Teresa Caputo. I love her. But, I don't surprise people when I get my nails done and give them a message, because I think that that's not fair. It goes against the ethics of when you learn about mediumship, because they may imagine crying at work. You don't want to shock people like that. Now, if I'm with a friend and I know that they're open to that world and spirit comes through, I will tell them. I'll just straight up say, your mother's here. That happened with my real estate agent, who's become a good friend of mine, when she was finding our place here. And her mom was such a beautiful spirit and such a character. And I said, and funny enough, her last name is Pastor, like Pastor the Friendly Ghost, which I thought was hilarious. Of course, I'd pick a real estate agent like that, and she had a white car that the license plate said Ghost. And so I figured she'd be receptive to this, so I told her, and I got, it was her mother's name, and that she had her mother's middle name, which I would never have known, and just all these personal facts. And she, who was not really actually, she's never really talked to a medium, but it was so precise, you just can't deny it. And it was just a beautiful message, and I loved feeling her spirit. Now, I was a very successful psychic medium for years, but what was the challenge for me was navigating someone's grief, because I am so empathic, and balancing that with the beauty and ecstasy of the other dimension. And so, yes, of course they're with us all the time, and really what happens is the spirits instantly want to just share that they love them, or they're sorry, or those are common things. But I try to get from them first, how did you die? When was your birthday? So people believe me, and then pass along those messages, because then it's much more powerful. Now, I did that. I loved it. But when I started channeling, now I've got the spirits that are of a much higher vibration, right? They're my spirit guides. They've chosen not to incarnate anymore. I feel like I know them. They uplift me. There's not navigating those two worlds of extreme sadness and despair often, and then this elation, which many mediums do successfully, but is challenging for me. And so when I get to channel and feel that overwhelming love from the power of 10, and it lingers with me until, I decide to let life interfere and get me down, which I do too. But when I channel, it's just so profound, and there's not ever any negativity, ever any sadness, because, sometimes people die in crazy ways, and especially like if a child dies, and I'm a mom, that was really hard for me, even though, again, on the other side, which is the power of 10, called the way station, you can call it heaven, whatever you want to call it, wherever we go when we die, and according to the power of 10, there are billions of such dimensions beyond this one. They're in bliss. And I always used to get the question, well, how are they? Well, they're fantastic. The question is, how are you? Because people grieve at different times. And I completely relate. I've lost people I love very much myself. And even though I have those mediumship abilities, you still miss the loss of their physical presence. I think what you miss the most is their touch, the feel of a hug. And that's why I tell people, hug your loved ones now. Don't wait. We could all die at any time. And I believe in reincarnation. It makes the most sense to me personally, that And we've died many times in many creative ways. And of course we'll be with our loved ones when we die. We won't see them because they don't have a body. You feel them like a vibration, just as if you would know your loved one coming in the room with your eyes closed. You will know the moment you cross that you're surrounded not by just those who loved you in this life, but through countless lifetimes. It's almost inconceivable the amount of love that's available in the other dimensions. It's hard to do it while you're in a body. We forget, right? Until we near death, or maybe we get glimpses of it in meditation, which is so essential to being a medium or a psychic or a channel. It's mandatory. You can't do it without a regular meditation practice, I believe, because that's how we clear our mind. And in clearing our mind, that's where you become receptive. And so, fortunately for me, I was introduced to meditation very early in my life, in my teens. People probably thought I was crazy, but it helped me get through a turbulent adolescence. And so I've just, enjoyed a lifetime of that. And that's what I think has enabled me to just be that open channel, because that's all I am, is just allowing it to come through me, just like a Reiki healer. It's energy, and so I'm receptive. I allow it.
Yeah. I just have one more question about ghosts before we move on. Is there is there such a thing as like evil ghosts or poltergeists, that kind of stuff, like?
Personally, and I probably will get a lot of people not agreeing with me, but I don't believe in that. I believe that there's darkness and there's light. Okay. So when you die, you feel the light, and then there's the absence of light. I believe that what we call evil, which is the Power of 10 has pointed out, is live spelled backwards. That's it. Even the word sin originates, and this is my English, root getting with me, it means to miss the mark. So it's like to make a mistake. And we all make mistakes, right? So what I've encountered as a medium is that just like you would encounter souls here, right? You don't want to judge it as good and bad, but there's different scales of enlightenment. There's people who dealt with mental illness. I believe what we call evil is often, it's mental illness, it's trauma. You don't experience trauma on the other side. And yet there are spirits who hold on as attachments to this dimension in the same way that we hold on to attachments here, right? When we focus on a painful past, they do too. Not all of them. That's why I love when I encounter spirits that aren't like that have led a very spiritually focused life, so the transition's easier for them. But we have to remember that ghosts or spirits, whatever you want to call them, and people, that's just, again, man-made. It's who we were. We were once of that spiritual nature. We've forgotten. And so we enter into form, we forget for a while, we go back to spirit, which is the greater part of us. And so it's having compassion for where they're at, just as you would for a person with mental illness. Now, I may not get in a room with them, they might kill me. Now, let's think about this logically, and this is what I joke with my groups, but it's true. Have you ever heard about a ghost killing someone in the newspaper? Of course not. They don't have hands. That's only in horror movies. And I, as a screenwriter, I know horror sells. It fear sells. And so, yes, I myself got scared. And then I thought, when you are projecting fear, what are you going to attract? You're going to attract people who either are also fearful or people who want to hurt you, and that includes spirits. So if you are of the mindset that there are evil spirits you must protect yourself from, guess what? You're going to attract those evil spirits. In hundreds and hundreds of readings, I have never, ever attracted anything like that. Have I attracted some ones that I don't like so much, just like people? Absolutely. And then you have to learn clear boundaries. You have a body, they don't. That's already stronger because we're in an environment where that's the norm, right? And so you just say, get out. I don't want you here. I bring in my guardian angels, my spirit guides. I believe in all that. I believe there's higher level spirits than me that once I get in that high vibration, I don't attract it. Now, if other people have that in their life, it's usually because they are focused there. It's what I've learned more than anything else from my guides is that life is all about where you focus. When you focus on the good, you get more good. When you focus on the bad, you get more bad. It's not good or bad on the other side. It just is. And so when I focus on having a beachfront place and I don't go, well, I can never afford that, then it shows up in a way that I can create it for myself. When I focus that I only attract beings of love and life and peace, they come towards me. You are attracted to me out of nowhere, and you're on the other side of the world. And so it's keeping that mindset that and of course there's going to be jerks along the way. We all encounter that. And that too is a lesson, because the power of 10 says, and this is one of my favorite things they tell me, and I have to always remember it, that their definition of success, it's not material gain, not that that's a bad thing, or celebrity or any of that. It's how high can you maintain your vibration in the midst of anything, no matter what goes on around you, how high can you keep it? Because think about it, if we keep allowing ourselves to dip into those feelings, those lower energies of fear and doubt and resentment and anger, those don't exist on the other side. And you can fight me on that, but it just doesn't. When you don't have a body, let's think about this. You cannot be killed. You don't need to have a house. You don't need shelter. You don't need food. You don't interact in the same way. There's no competition. You all just live in this state of bliss. So we're here to experience contrast and polarities so we can grow our souls, so that when we return to bliss, we're even more expansive. That's it. And so the same goes for the spiritual world. So if you believe in that, guess what? You're going to attract it. I don't give any energy to that. And if I do feel like I'm starting attracting that, then I think, wow, maybe I'm in a bad mood. Maybe I'm getting sick. My body's getting sick. And I take time out and I rest. I listen to music. I pet my animals. I do those things that get me back in a better state, a calmer state, where then I can go out into the world and attract better.
You mentioned Reiki there a few minutes ago. I know you're a certified Reiki practitioner, and I can do Reiki as well. It's been a great help for me to get more interested in spirituality and spiritual and personal growth. Do you want to just say something about Reiki?
Yeah, I love Reiki. I was actually, like I said, a yoga teacher and a massage therapist for many years. And then I became a Reiki master. I studied a little bit of Karuna Reiki 1, which is a different form of Reiki. But, I love it. It helps me heal personally. I used to do it as part of my massage practice. And then I kind of got away from it and did it mostly for myself. I was blessed that I met a woman, my teacher, Bev Ferris, who was only like 3 steps removed from Dr. Usui, who invented Reiki, which is amazing. Again, synchronicity. But just recently when I moved here, I got involved with a Reiki group that did circles in Dunedin, where we're going to do our workshop at the same place, the Living Forward Center. And the leader was phenomenal. I just love this group of healers. And we just practice working on each other. And whenever I do that, I just feel amazing. I feel, again, like it just clears out any energies I've taken on in the day, which I tend to do. And they just, the same day that you and I were chatting, they asked me to be the leader because the leader moved back to her home state. And so I said yes, because it felt right. And so now I'm leading a circle of healers once every 2 weeks in Dunedin, which makes me happy. And I only say yes to things that make me happy anymore. And so it's, now I like sharing it. I like having other Reiki healers and being in that energy. And often when we're doing Reiki on each other, I actually invite people for their intuitive insights. So some people who didn't even think they had mediumship skills will talk about spirits in the room because we're in that energy, right? And sometimes they'll talk about, different psychic insights that they get. And I always tell people if they don't want to share that, because some people are more private than others, that's fine. But I've just found it to be a tremendous benefit for myself. And I love meeting up. I feel like people that are practitioners of Reiki they understand channeling a little more than most because they're already understanding the terms energy and healing and vibration and frequency and all those terms that to a lot of the public is still foreign, right? And so we get a lot of Reiki people in our audiences. So that's a beautiful thing. We've been asked by a lot of Reiki groups to do our channeling events. So it's an integral part of what I do, and I just love Reiki people. So it doesn't surprise me that you're also
yeah, I can do it as well. I've been able to do it since the age of 19, and like if I wasn't able to do Reiki, I don't know what I'd be like nowadays, because it's had such a big effect on me. You know what I mean? But just to leave talking about Reiki, just sort of a question, kind of a broad question about the power of 10. What kind of words or what kind of advice or words of encouragement can our listeners hope to get from reading your books, Michelle, the Power of 10 books, and from keeping up with your work in general in this area?
Yeah, what I always tell people, they always ask me what book do I recommend, and I say go to the book you're drawn to. Go on Amazon, in order, but again, you can read them in any order. There's Manifesting Miracles and Money is the first book that we wrote together. Then there's Peace is Power and Keep Your Spirits Up. Manifesting Miracles and Money is a great introduction for people who have never, don't really understand manifesting or law of attraction, or maybe they practice it and they don't manifest consistently, right? But just reading what people tell me, just reading those words, because they're divinely inspired. Sometimes you just pick up the book and open it randomly, and it's the right thing you need to hear at the right time, because, it doesn't have to be read linearly unless that's the way you like to read things. But what I've heard from our audience is that they read them over and over and over again, because you get something different from it every time. Now, we have the transcript verbatim from some of the earliest Power of 10 talks in there. And so, again, there's just something about those words that when you read them, you feel the vibration of them. Now, Peace is Power has over 100 lessons. Kind of, again, it's written in the same way as A Course in Miracles. So you can read the early chapters, the first 10 chapters, of course it's in 10, and then read the lessons, and they're like, they're like potato chips. That's what I tell people. They're little snippets. Some are just a paragraph. Others are like 2 pages. And so you can read that in the morning and let your whole day be guided that way, which is it's a guidebook. It's almost like a course. In fact, I've taught it as a course that way, and we have certified teachers that teach it. Again, kind of like A Course in Miracles. And then Keep Your Spirits Up is really just keep it just that. How do you, after reading this profound thing, right? Sometimes it can be very isolating and alienating to have these amazing, deep, profound thoughts and no one to share it with. And so Keep Your Spirits Up is, again, I think I have 90 different chapters, but they're short chapters, so that when you feel your vibration dip, as we all do, that you can read one of those. Again, I recommend just using your intuition. We all have it. And just be guided to whatever it is that you're supposed to read. And then it's a sign. It's fun to do it that way. So, I am working on another book. It's been slower going because I moved and we had the TV show and everything. But those 3 books, again, the way they poured out of me, through me, is just, you don't have to, they're going to say, the Power of 10 are going to say it more articulately than I am. I'm just, what's beautiful is I don't feel like I'm bragging about it, because it's not me. And I read the book when I'm feeling sad or down or unhappy with the world, because, or God forbid, I read about politics and I start feeling myself just, and then I have to bring myself back with that balance. And I'll just, like I said, read a little passage. Then it becomes like a healing technique, like yoga or meditation or Reiki. It's just one of the tools that I use to just get me back in that state where all things are possible.
What I've after started to do for the last couple of years now, I started doing it with Neil Donald Walsh's books. But what I do is, like, instead of reading the books again and again every year or two, I go through them with a pencil and underline my favorite parts. So
Nice.
that's what I did with your three books. So, and since I've read them, even though I've only read them in the last couple of months, I've already started going through them again, just the underlined parts. I think it's brilliant to be able to do that because instead of having to to take on a whole book to read again, to go
Yeah.
through the underlying parts because like books on spirituality, not just your books, but nearly I think all the books I've read on spirituality from different authors, there's so much in them that you can read them again
Yeah.
and again, and you learn things that you forgot about the first time or second time you read them because there's just so much in them. You know what I
And
mean?
that I do the same thing. I highlight my favorite passages.
Hmm.
And funny enough, I met Neil Donald Walsh.
All right.
He's one of my favorite authors. And Conversations with God was my early spiritual books that I read.
Yeah.
And I gave a talk at a spiritual center for positive living, and they asked me to take him to the airport in the
All right.
morning. So I got a personal audience with him, and he's such a funny guy. Just such a great sense
Cool.
of humor.
Yeah.
Who knew? He's
Yeah.
just a really fun, down to earth man, and he actually was a news reporter just like me,
Hmm.
which is funny early on, and I didn't know that about him, and so yeah, we had a really good time. And again, it's funny to me that I never had the intention to meet him, and yet I admired his books and his way of writing, right? He poured it through on a yellow pad of paper. And in the same way, that's how it ended up coming through me as well. So I'm the same way. I've read every Hay House book that exists. I've
Hmm.
been reading them since I was a teenager, and I return to them again and again. And then also, there's also YouTube. So we do have all our amateur videos on our YouTube channel, and you can connect to that on our website as well at wearethepowerof10.com. But some people are more audio learners, right? I mean, I still love listening to Abraham Hicks videos too. And again, to me, it's just getting back into that beautiful high vibrational state. So I listen to our recordings. I listen to them. I listen to the honest guys say I love their British accent, so I listen to their free meditations. And again, because some people are more auditory, some people are more visual, and we learn in different ways. So I think it's important to examine all that, see what resonates for you.
I only have a couple more questions more, Michelle. I won't keep you all day.
Sure.
You mentioned Esther Hicks there, or Esther Abraham Hicks, and Esther's on YouTube, and she lets people share her work on YouTube, and she actually has over 350,000 subscribers on YouTube. And
Wow.
you and Esther do kind of the same kind of thing, I think. So it just shows you that there definitely is a lot of demand out there for spirituality, isn't there, do you think?
Absolutely. And Esther, I think, opened the door. She's been doing it over 30 years, right?
Mm.
And interestingly enough, because I was married previous to my husband now, and my former married name was Hicks. And so I was in a spiritual metaphysical bookstore, and that's how I found Abraham Hicks books, because I thought, there's my last name.
Mm.
So I started reading it, and to be honest, I thought, oh, well, this is weird when he talks about channeling, and yet I couldn't stop reading. And I was probably one of the first people to read The Secret and all that. I just loved all of it. Never did I know that I would eventually be, I hesitate to say that because I just admire Esther so much. And my husband and I, when I was still just practicing mediumship before I was channeling, we went on one of her cruises to the Caribbean. And this was not long after Jerry passed. And, it was so profound. And I kept seeing myself on stage. My husband kept seeing me. But I thought it was as a medium. I didn't expect to be like Esther Hicks. I wouldn't presume to do that. And yet, that's how it kind of morphed. And I think that she always talks about this, especially in her early recordings, how so much of what she did just came out of meditation. And she actually went to see, I think it was I got it right, it was someone named Sheila. It was a different spirit channel her and Jerry went to go see. And so she was inspired by the people that came before her, and Jane Roberts, I think that her name was Seth, the Seth books, you know. So we all build on each other's work. Now, early on, interesting enough, Hay House was interested in our books, but they said they had enough with Esther, which I was like, there's enough? I mean, how many different types of the mediums do they have, right? But it wasn't meant to be, you know, and I love our publishing company. They've been fabulous for us, and Tom is an author himself, and so that was just in alignment. But, you know, hey House, if you're listening, I'd love to get picked up because they have such a broad audience, and I've just been such an admirer of them for so long. And I admire Abraham Hicks and Esther, and I just love them. I think that we're similar but different, and this is in our books too. And I feel like, you know, they're a collective, right? Abraham, and the Power of 10 is a collective. And how Power of 10 explains it is that there's different levels of dimensions that people are ready for. And I think that there's room for more than one voice. I mean, there's a lot of channelers out there, and some you resonate with, some you don't, and that's fine. That's just like anything else. But I feel like the Power of 10, I feel like we tend to attract the people that have been in that realm for a long time and on that journey with Abraham and are ready for even the next step. And it's not to say it's better or worse or any of that. It's not linear. It's just that that's what we tend to attract when people are ready to take it to the next step. And there's room for that, right? Once you've already been practicing and you become a pretty darn good manifester, then it's what's beyond that, you know? And there is a beyond that. In fact, Peace's Power, I originally wanted to call beyond something. I forget what it was, but because that's what it felt like. It was like, what's beyond this physical manifestation? Now, something I haven't told anybody was the other day when I was meditating, and sometimes I'll just get little tidbits from Power 10. Maybe I'm in the shower and I'll hear something, and not often because I feel like they respect my own free will and my own privacy, but, you know, when I'm not asking for it. But I was thinking about manifestation, and I don't know, it was just kind of on my mind, and the difference between when people get so focused on it that's all they want is the dollar, and they don't understand it's not the dollar you want, right? It's the experience, it's the feelings that you're going to get from that. And that's, again, you know, that's Abraham Hicks 101. But what I heard from the Power of 10, and they're so funny, my guides are so funny, they said that's the whole point. And I laughed my butt off because I thought, it's not that that's the whole point in that you only care about being rich. It's that we live in a material world where thoughts materialize, right? Feelings materialize. The other realms don't have that. You don't have the physical. This is a slower, denser reality where things take longer. And in the other dimensions, things happen instantaneously. And so when you've been at this a long time, sometimes you think, well, why isn't it happening instantaneously? Well, you know, Abraham Hicks would say, well, there's that beautiful buffer of time where you really clarify what you want. But what the Power of 10 will tell you is that the reason you feel impatient, and that's kind of a negative connotation, right, is because we're remembering how instantaneous things are when you're not in a form. And so if you can actually get in the energy of that with the understanding that, of course, it's going to take longer. This is a material world. That's the whole point. And I just laugh. So now when I start getting in that energy, well, why hasn't it happened yet? I go, that's the whole point.
Some people believe we are living through a time of profound spiritual growth this is I don't know, but is that a message of the Power of 10 to you also?
You know, it's interesting because I feel like the shift has been happening all the time. And rather than saying that we're just ascending, let's say, to the fifth dimension, how the Power of 10 says it is that we're always ascending. We're always evolving. And here's the clincher. and this is really what I've been grasping with recently, is that I think sometimes people think that when we are becoming more spiritual and people are waking up, that it's this complete uphill line of evolution. But what happens is then you're judging the negative that happens to you as bad. But it's Abraham calls it contrast. But contrast is not negative. It's showing you what you really want. So sometimes I think people get discouraged because they're like, I'm on this spiritual path. Why is this happening to me? Well, because you're judging it as bad when it's all good. It all leads to growth, all of it. When you can embrace it with this radical sense of acceptance, that all of it, even the stuff that seems painful and seems awful, it's happening to propel you forward. That was another thing we're going to keep your spirits up, the law of propulsion, because it's time now to go beyond the law of attraction and really propel ourselves forward. And how do you do that? The fastest way to do that is through seeing its opposite. That's why we're seeing a lot of chaos. So you get, a large amount of people that are waking up, for lack of a better word, that are evolving, that want something more behind just survival. And yet, why is that happening? Because they experienced painful things that woke them up. And what the power of 10 is saying is that really what's happening on the individual level is happening on the collective level here as well. So, for instance, the United States is really, at odds right now. There's a lot of challenging things happening and a lot of people fighting. But it's also what I feel instinctively, that it's going to propel everyone forward really rapidly in the next couple of years. Isn't it ironic that next year is 2020? It's 2020 vision. It's clarity. It's a time when we can really propel forward if we choose to. And we have free will. So, and we're not here to save everyone else. I'm going to say that too, because I think often when people wake up, they think, oh my gosh, I have to save everyone else. And what Abraham says, what the power of 10 says is, stay in your own lane. But power of 10 says it in a way that lifts your vibration, because that vibration is contagious. And so when you are feeling good, you don't tell people what to do, right? Because everybody has unique ways. It's not up to us to say, you must read the power of 10. I'm not going to do that. There may be another book that resonates for you more at this time. You may read it in a few years. You may not read it at all. And all of that's okay, right? There's room for all of it. And so we are ascending, evolving, but there are billions of dimensions. Don't limit it just to 5. And that's exciting to me. That means that we're not just going to go in this human way of thinking of level 5 and level 6 and level 7. That seems like it's going to take an eternity. You could die now and choose not to come back and skip ahead to, level 17. There are many levels of awareness. We tend to, as humans, put a cap on it. And so if you can start to think more unlimited, start thinking more like a soul instead of a body, because that's really who we are, right? That's what the power of 10 talks about a lot. And that's how you create a better world, not just what's happening to us on the inside is now going to be reflected on a much bigger scale. There's going to be a lot of revolutions of systems. We're seeing it, right? In banking and politics. It's breaking down so that we can have this new world. It's happening. We can feel it. Those on the edge of consciousness are feeling it, right? I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this, because I know whoever's listening to this is feeling that and focused on that and that growth and all that beautiful expansion that's going to happen from the current contrast that's happening.
We come towards the end of the interview now, Michelle. Just I know you mentioned the law of attraction a couple of times, and I know you believe. I know Esther Abraham Hicks is pretty much frequently talking about it. But one thing I read in one of your books, that the power of 10 said the law of attraction is not actually a law, how we understand laws. Like, even in the spirit world, it's not actually, or is it a law? You know what I mean?
Yes. And Steve, because the power of 10 focus so much, words are powerful, right? Abraham says this as well. Lots of people do. Our words, your thoughts become words which carry a vibration, which materialize into form. And so when we say law, what do we think of as humans? We think it's a rule that must be followed, and there's some negative charge to that. Not always, but I mean, some people appreciate that. And yet what they're saying is the attraction just is, right? It's energy, it's quantum physics, that everything vibrates, that everything is made up of atoms bouncing around. We are made up of that. And so everything is a sound. That's why I love sound healing too, because we are all made up of vibration. We're all made up of sound. That's why in yogi circles you hear the word Om, because that's the resonant sound of the universe. They've had, satellites out in the middle of the universe, and they hear that humming. That's our core essence. And so, it is attraction, right? It's not just the law of attraction. It just is. So I think they're trying to get, when you channel, you're always not trying because it comes through, but you're finding the essence of what the message is. And words are imperfect as well, right? They're man-made. We're just trying to convey something that when you get to the other side and the many dimensions beyond, you don't even have to speak a word. You just know it. And so when we channel, whether it's Abraham or the Power of 10 or whoever's channeling, they're coming through and they're using my body vehicle to find those words that will most capture the essence for the most amount of people. And so that's why they say it in different times. And that's why I think it's early on, 30 years ago, of course, people understand the word law, but I think it's evolving. I think that can limit the expansion that exists because words limit, right? And they carry a vibration like anything else. So I think that's what the Power of 10 said. And maybe in the future we can interview the Power of 10 and have them channel and say it more perfectly than I can say. Because again, I'm just a vehicle, just a vehicle. Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm grateful for this interview. I'd love to do more of that. If anyone wants to interview me, you can contact us at wearethepowerof10, the number 1010.com. We do private consultations. You can go under the headline of consult to schedule one of those with the Power of 10. They're amazing. They're life transforming. You can see all the people that talk about it there. We do workshops and retreats. We don't have one planned, but if you ever want me to be in Ireland, I've never been there. I'd love to go.
Cool.
So do check out. We have the links to all of our books, of course. They're on Amazon. Our TV show is called Don't Change the Channel. It's available on the Dead or On TV channel on Roku right now. Eventually it will be on Herflix. We hope to get more networks picking it up as well. But most everything's on our website. Please join us on social media. And we also, I don't think you're in this, Karen, but we have, for people who've read our books and been to our workshops, we have a Power of 10 High Vibe Tribe. It's a Facebook group, and it's a lot of fun because it's just people who have read our books, and we keep each other inspired. So I make sure that I moderate it, make sure it's all good stuff, and it's just a wonderful group of people if you're on your spiritual path and you want to meet other positive people from around the world. So I just want to say thank you, and I love to connect with people in this way. I feel like it's my passion and my purpose, so I am very grateful to you for this interview today. Thank you.